was never good at science. I would have made a horrible engineer. I used to love politics. I probably wanted to become a sephologist at one point. People would give an arm and a leg to do this, to be paid to cover a sport, to make a living out of it, like a lot of the boys. And I'd known what the last 6 months had been for him. It was hard. Again, with Virat, I felt very emotional. So the first 10 odd minutes for everyone, they were tears around. This is going to get me into a lot of trouble. I don't know, man. The World Cup, I think it was just a great appreciation of a great moment that Suryakumar Yadav and Hardik Pandya combined to produce. I happened to be there. There has to be something for everyone. Cricket does not belong to the purists. Cricket belongs to everyone. At number pro, I've got to go with Sachin Tendulkar. Oh, where do I fit in Virat?
Often we talk about hearing reels and Instagram posts and whatnot, and one man is in the thick of it. After India winning the World Cup, everyone's like, Alexa, literally play Long Off by Jatin Sapru. We've got the man himself. Jatin, thank you so much for your time. Literally 1 month almost after India's epic win in Barbados. How are you, Jatin?
I'm good. Away from all the Alexas and Siris and all of that. I'm living where it's not people asking me, Alexa, play long off. It's my little 5-year-old who's like, Papa. And when she says, Papa, be at point, slips, long off, long on, I am doing Papa things. Absolutely enjoying it. The feeling is still very fresh. Humbled by all the love that I've received on social media. I did not do anything extraordinary. We'll talk about that later. That was Suryakumar Yadav's moment, and it will be. And कभी-कभी ऐसा लगता है कि मैंने इसके अलावा कमेंट्री नहीं की.
And this is something that you use even to some of the stars. I've kind of gone through so many interviews of yours, big fan as well. And dare I say it's Master Apprentice in this one, little tongue in cheek there. But you humanize stardom. There's no getting away from that. You yourself, because you've told us on your YouTube channel and millions that many people will give an arm and leg for the job that you do, but you literally are so humble. So how do you get validation at work of what you do right now as a cricket presenter?
To be very honest, I think it's a field where you will get stuck in the validation game. And I did too. I think I spent too much time on social media. I let the dopamine rush get the better of me a lot of times. I never thought too much of this as a job. I mean, in a way that, I would think that I do something which is far greater than anyone else. When you come onto a cricket field, you realize that we are just one tiny speck or one tiny Lego piece in an otherwise huge castle. The number of people who put together a broadcast, we are one section of that. I've never let the job or the fame that's come to it get to my head. Validation game, I've been guilty of being stuck in. I have a very limited social media consumption. The highs and lows are treated equally. There is probably, someone who's better than me who's not gotten the chance yet. That person will get the chance. And when that person gets a chance, I should be there to welcome him. But I should just probably have found myself something which makes me more secure and something which is a progression for me. That's how I've always been.
Everything happens for a reason in life, right? I don't want to sound too philosophical, like I've had 3 whiskeys already, but literally, do you believe in fate, Jatin? I mean, 10th grade on, there was a story where literally you wanted to go explore science and do that. And here you are enjoying and living your brilliant life.
I do believe in fate. Fate plays its role. It sometimes at least offers you a glimpse of another path. What you do with it is entirely up to you. I think that combination of what you decide to do with the chance that you get is in your hands. But I think, and that chance comes when all seems lost. I never went exploring for science. How I wish I was far from science, because till class 10, I was a good 80%er and doing very well. I'd started to lead my school team. I was playing Delhi zonals. And then my dad was pretty rigid in his thought because of his experiences of growing up in Srinagar, Kashmir. And he'd obviously seen the turmoil. And at that time, which is early 2000s, cricket was not what cricket is today. And he just felt that I would be better off finding myself security in life, which he thought would come via engineering. And after that, maybe UPSC. or try to get a government job. So he's the one who got me into science, and that led to a sharp decline in my academic performance, which in turn locked up my cricket kit. So that was my sporting dream, locked. And I struggled a lot. I think I lost myself. I lost a lot of confidence while I was struggling to get admission in an engineering college. And I was trying to do something that I was far detached from. I was never good at science. I would have made a horrible engineer. And 6 months into engineering, I had to take a call, which was against the wishes of my dad. But my mom supported me, and eventually he came around to it. And that's when I jumped out and got into engineering. I was not doing anything with sport. I did not harbor any dreams of getting in. I just wanted a job. I had to pay for my education. I had to find some stability. And one thing led to another. Fate kept directing me towards sports. And eventually I found my way to Dream Job, the contest that I won, which got me the job with ESPN. And that contest came at a time where I had decided to almost give up my broadcast career, which, by the way, I was trying out in. Could have been political, could have been advertising. Mostly it would have been political. I was trying to get into a news channel. I used to love politics. I probably wanted to become a sephologist at one point. But I was almost going to give up because I was not getting through any real news channel, not getting any good job or an opening. And I was almost about to give up when this opportunity came.
Yeah, imagine that. Jatin Sapru, the sephologist, but here you are talking cricket. We love it. We absolutely love hearing your insights, especially as a Hindi commentator. More on that in just a bit. But in that era you grew up in, Jatin, you confess that you've been a cricket fan, but also a huge sports fan. You've grown up seeing pretty much all the channels, right? You're talking about the good old ESPN Star back in the day, then the Doordarshan,
Yes.
then the Neo, and then the Star Cricket. And you had so many personalities on screen at that point in time. Alan Wilkins, John Dykes. In politics, you mean Prannoy Roy and people like that. Who really gave you that sort of oomph to go like, you know what, this is my space and I'm going to kill it in front of cam?
So much has changed, in fact, because the two guys, Alan Wilkins was an absolute favorite because he could do so many sports. You put on Wimbledon and there was Wilco with Vijay Amritraj. Vijay, he just had so much elegance and poise. He was doing tennis one day. He was doing cricket the other day. John Dykes with football. Dr. Prannoy Roy on NDTV. And if you see, all these men were just so calm with their style of broadcast. Harsha Bhai, we all grew up, when sports became something with clearer picture, with 24-hour sports. I remember ESPN Sports Center, the tananet, that used to be my ringtone at one point in time when we had smartphones. 4 or 5 very special months I've had in my cricketing career. Once was 2.5 months being in Singapore presenting Sports Center India and Asia for 2 months. Mind-boggling experience. And the other was covering the 2012 London Olympics for ESPN Star Sports. That in itself, one of the greatest tournaments I've ever been a part of. I know we talk Cricket World Cups, but the Olympics is the Olympics. And yeah, so I was very fascinated by these men. And the first 2 or 3 years, I think in every broadcaster's career, you will find you trying to maybe, not copy, but you can't help but sound like maybe someone you look up to, till you eventually find your own space and your own style.
There's a couple of other sports you've done. You did some FA Cup matches apparently late at night in Singapore.
That was in Singapore. Yeah. Same during the Sports Center days. I was filling in for a guy called Jason De La Pena. He had gone to host the India tour to Australia in 2011. So I traveled from India to Singapore to fill in for him and also get some training. Some FA Cup matches late in the evening. That's a fond memory. I used to do a show called Football Locker Room. That was one of my favorite shows. I've done 9-pin bowling. I've done motor racing. I've rallied in the desert. I've rallied across the Himalayas. I've done a lot of sports, buddy.
I was going to mention those, but I'm glad that you actually put it out there. And as a 90s kid, I completely resonate with that era, the ringtone that you had, Andrew Leslie at 8:30 in my TV. But going back to that competition you won, Harsha Ki Khoj, that also rings a bell in the 90s kids. And I wonder if there's a Jatin Ki Khoj down the line. But that was a special competition for you, right? In many ways, the fact that Yes, it was something that you won, but you also found a certain special someone with you in that competition.
Yes, yes. My wife was also part of the top 18 contestants. She made it to the television rounds. She was amongst the top 18 contestants in the country. And I think she would have given me a very stiff competition. She lost out in a round, which was actually a team effort together. And she's the biggest sports fan in the house, I have to admit. So she's obviously helped me keep my priorities in check, and still helps me, continue to be a better human being. She's the reality check that I needed. In a field which was about to drastically change my life. But that competition came out of nowhere. A dear friend of mine, Rick Ganguly, who works for another network as a director, he was the one. We used to work in a small office producing content for a couple of mobile networks. It was called Mobile ESPN. We were working for a company called Tangerine Digital. He was the one who said, "Why aren't you auditioning?" And I was like, "I don't stand a chance. Let's save some money." Probably had 5 or 7 rupees on my phone. And he forced me to audition on what was almost a hungover morning. And I never looked back. So fate has a lot of, people who just point you in a direction that you're probably avoiding. I have great amounts of gratitude. Feel humble. I'm very glad that God's gave me an opportunity, and I've made something of that opportunity to be able to provide, to be able to take care of my family, to be connected to a sport which is revered in the country, a sport which I had a love affair, which is just about to start, but was abruptly brought to a close. And it's like I've always said, people would give an arm and a leg to do this, to be paid to cover a sport, to make a living out of it, just to get the love and all. I think I'm just blessed. I soak it in, but what I've earned from the sport is the respect that I get from my fellow commentators, from other greats in the game, to be able to work with them, to be able to message some of them, to have their numbers, to be able to wish them on a birthday. No one's on my speed dial, but that's what I often remind myself. That is what I've earned. It's not anything else. It's to be able to be a small part of that ecosystem is what I've earned.
Fabulous. Just we'll get into a couple of rapid fires with you in down the line, but it'll be criminal of me not to ask you about that day in Barbados, brother, because you had the opportunity to see it. We had our cojones in our mouth, so to speak, across the globe, whichever Indian fan you were. 30 of 30, it's well documented now, but again, your 2 pence on just that last half an hour, Jatin.
Who is the manager at Atletico Madrid who used cojones in a press conference?
Simeone,
Diego Simeone. I remember that. Nice. That day is a very nervous day. Yeah, I was there in Ahmedabad. I had to call the final moment. I know how our hearts sank. I remember watching Virat's face, hiding it behind a cap. I remember Rohit running away towards the tunnel. The thing is that a lot of times we are branded as sometimes cheerleaders or not being critical enough. The fact is we just end up seeing a lot more that goes in beyond practice, in conversation with cricketers, and you just know how much this meant to this bunch. They might call it another game, they might call it World Cup, another tournament, but that's a way to deal with pressure. It is the moment that a cricketer lives for, dreams of. And when it's just broken so many times, then you're just, that day is a day you just want it to come to an end somehow. That's how the day starts. There's nervous energy. You don't go in saying, yes, we're going to do this, because I've been covering cricket. I've probably done every World Cup since 2011. I wasn't part of the big broadcast in 2011. I had done the Sri Lanka leg of it, but I've been there 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16. When was it after? Whatever. Australia, Dubai. Been part of every heartbreak. So for that to happen, and when it was 30 of 30, just again, it's like this is going down again. When we were 31 for 4, I was just like, MCG again. Your job is to build hope, because that's what cricket teaches you. And if anyone had a doubt, just go back, what's the MCG game? It was truly lost. 30 of 30 was truly lost. But that day it again felt this is going to be another one of those afternoons and evenings. But then I think a team that deserved that perfect story, that eventual redemption, and it was very emotional. It was very emotional because India had won the World Cup, had been there in 2011 and 13, but knowing these boys, just knowing how much that had gone in, how much a Rohit wanted it, how much a Virat wanted it, what it meant for Rishabh Pant, what it meant for Hardik Pandya, Bumrah, Arshdeep, Kuldeep, Akshar, Dubey, I mean, Siraj, they were just, we were desperate, and I was desperate to see this and to live this. So obviously, it felt very personal.
How's the mood in the commentators box? Because obviously it's different for English and Hindi, and you work with some amazing pros. At that moment in time, was there a tear being shed by one or two? Because I know that you guys have to keep your emotions in control, but surely it struck a different nerve that day.
As the West Indies is a very tricky place to broadcast, right? So it's very hard to send the entire crew. Me and Ambati Raidu were there. Irfan, for personal reasons, had to come back earlier to India, and he was based out of the studio. Sharipa was in the studio. So everyone else was in the Mumbai studio. Me and Ambati were there. And after I called the Surya moment, a couple of balls after that, I had to rush to the ground when it was almost imminent that India are going to win, because I had to do all the interviews. So we were separate. So the moment it happened, so I can't tell you, there were obviously tears that were shed. I saw in the studio. To me, out there, when I looked at Hardik and just shared a glance, I know him. I know him personally, like a lot of the boys, and I'd known what the last 6 months had been for him. It was hard to roll back the tears. I'm glad we did no interview then. I got emotional then when, again with Virat, I felt very emotional. So the first 10 odd minutes for everyone, there were tears around. There were tears around the contingent that has traveled along with India for a decade. There were a lot of tears around, tears of happiness, tears of relief, people wiping them off left, right, and center, making sure it doesn't come out on broadcast. So yeah, I don't know. Ambati was straight onto the show, but there were tears.
Okay, just to finish up this whole amazing Caribbean odyssey, if I can put it that way, some harikari in the end to fly back to Indian shores. How did that happen? Because a couple of the media guys got on a charter plane, the same plane that was flying back the players. It was brilliant to see that the whole unity kind of stood within with that dire news of the hurricane. When did you get back to India, and how was that whole episode?
I landed 4 hours after the charter landed. I was booked to fly out. My daughter was with me. My daughter had come along, so we were booked. Barbados, Miami, Dubai, Delhi. I was going to visit my family in Delhi. That was the initial plan. We could have gotten onto the charter as well, but since we managed to get flights done a day later, I mean, it was just about basically getting out of Barbados. So everyone was obviously trying to get a charter, and then you want there to be a victory parade, so you wanted everyone to be on the same flight. So obviously BCCI stepped in with Air India. I'm guessing, I'm not part of, I don't really know the details, but obviously they did their best to get a charter into Barbados. The trick was not how you get out. First, you need to fly in because the airport was shut with the hurricane. There was a lot of anxiety. We were lucky. God was kind. Beryl just missed Barbados. We just got the outer layers of the hurricane. God bless the islands, which it sort of rogered. It wasn't particularly great. It was a very strong hurricane. We were lucky that the storm sort of missed us. It just felt like a bad Mumbai monsoon day. But it was just the anxiety. And they tried to accommodate almost everyone who was not managing to get a flight back. So glad. And you expect the Indian Cricket Board to stand up in these situations, and they always have.
Yeah, thank God for that, and thank God for the safety of all of you all on board as well. Speaking of safety, I was just paying attention to a few of your vlogs, which I've always done, and there was one that you did in Guyana in this World Cup, and I think you confessed that it's not really safe to get out there. So how do you kind of assess certain cities that you travel to and, of course, anchor in, where, okay, here's a good vibe to get a drink, here's a nice place to go get a quiet dinner, but Guyana, you were apprehensive, and understandably so.
That's also, buddy, because this was Guyana when I was 38. When I went to Guyana when I was 24, 25, I must admit that we have risked our safety in order to find a place with a vibe. That is the most honest I can get. there are wonderful people, but then there are a couple of places and you could find yourself into problematic situations. We live in a world where, I mean, you could find yourself in a dangerous place, but at the same time, all these cities we're talking about, Guyana's got some wonderful people. Yeah, when you're young and you can risk it, I can't risk it now. I've got 2 kids, got a loving wife. I think, taken enough risks in life, some very stupid. It's time to be wise. So the place with a vibe now is your room with Netflix. However, in Guyana, there was no room service, so it was hard.
Yeah, words of wisdom. And I saw how the dal rice went down swimmingly well there. But yum, right? Let's just move on to this particular unique rapid fire. I know there's plenty you've done in your time, but just to get to know you better as a person, let's see how you fare in this one. It's called Firsts with Jsap. Right. First role model in cricket, Jatin.
First role model in cricket, Rahul Dravid.
Same pinch. First commentary stint that you ever did.
On TV or digital works?
TV.
On TV was the 2014 T20 World Cup. I did a match. The first match I did was in Chittagong.
First country you visited?
For cricket?
Yeah.
First country I visited for cricket, as luck would have it, was the Asia Cup in Pakistan 2008. The Ajanta Mendes final. That was my first cricket tour outside of India.
Super. First bat you used. You mentioned Delhi zonals and loving cricket as a kid. First bat you used.
First bat I used was a bat which had a power sticker. But then when things got serious, it was a bat which was from JJ Sports in Jalandhar. And then Yonex. Finally, they make badminton equipment. My dad used to go to Jammu a lot. He used to work a lot in Jammu and he used to do a lot of road trips. So whenever he used to go, he used to get me something from Jalandhar. But eventually, when cricket started getting serious, it was BDM Dynamic Power.
Good old BDM. First car you bought, be honest with us.
Maruti Suzuki Swift VDI model.
And were you ever a drifter?
Buddy, I've done a lot of stupid things in life.
Sorry,
biker. I'm a motorhead. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to. I'm very lucky. I mean, I shouldn't be telling this story. My brother usually loves this story. I used to drift in my dad's Zen.
Wow.
God, don't do this, guys. Don't do this.
Super. Continuing to be nosy in the last one. First girlfriend that you ever had, like age-wise?
Age-wise, very late, in class 12.
Okay, that was like pre, like your
16,
Harsha Ki Khoj winning.
Oh,
Pre
yes.
Harsha Ki Khoj. Yeah, brilliant.
Yes.
Super. First thing you did when India won the 2007 T20 World Cup. Do you remember that day?
Came out of a sound room where we were doing commentary for a mobile platform. Came out, jumped, gave high fives to all the people who worked in that office and went right back in because I was not meant to leave the mic, but I had to scream. So I did come out of the sound room.
Compelling. First ever cricketer that you interviewed?
Sana Jayasuriya.
Really? Where was that?
And all I could, same Asia Cup, Pakistan, very clear memory. And all I could do was just look at his forearm and just try and count the fades that you could see. Because I used to, whenever he'd come down the track and take on a spinner, that just look at his forearm and I'd be like, Kiska hota hai bhai itna bada forearm yaar? And in the interview, I was just like,
yeah, that 189 still gives me nightmares. Last two then. First football club that you supported or support?
United. Manchester
Yes,
United.
I was hoping to say that. Brilliant. And
Yeah,
you've still been.
It's a very common answer. I am still a tragic, yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Although I put out a story the other day, happiness for Man United fans these days is usually on PlayStation. I just beat Man City and Liverpool the other day, like 5.
And finally, Jatin, first thing you do in the morning, now that you're an amazing husband and father, how's it different from how you were waking up as an 18-year-old?
An 18-year-old me was an absolute mess. I would not like to. I would like to go back and have a clear chat with that guy because I think I had potential to do a lot better. Now it is wake up and look for my two lovely ladies and my 5-month-old and try and catch a smile and give them a nice warm hug and kiss and start the day.
That's adorable. So that was your first. I just want to ask you a couple of more questions just before we wrap up, because everyone wants to know the day in the life of Jatin Sapru, especially during an IPL.
A day begins at home. Try and do some parenting if possible. My daughter now goes to school, so she comes back in the afternoon. So I really look forward to lunch with her. Try and catch a workout if possible, if not too tired. A little bit of prep, figure out what I have to do for YouTube. I make my own coffee. I sometimes get into having adrak wala pani or jeere wala pani in the morning. I do desi nuskhas. I bathe myself. I don't have an army to bathe me. I wear my clothes myself. I don't have an army. Nothing, man. It's a team of me, my wife, my lovely cook, and my lovely nanny at home. We are the ones who run the house. I don't have an army. And I get into work. And when I get into work, we have people in the pantry who get coffee. I order my own Swiggy. Someone goes to get the order. Food is there at work. Makeup is there at work. Clothes are there at work. There is no army. If you're thinking it's like an entourage of people walking here, there, everywhere, carrying my jacket, suits, and all of that. Very simple life.
Okay, for the lack of the better word or phrase, I should have said unsung heroes around your support system pillars and all of that. Which is true indeed. So how does it work? I mean, if you were doing a game at the Chinnaswamy on ground, obviously you'll fly in a day before. Do you fly in on the day, given the schedule?
Yeah, so what I prefer now is, and obviously I usually work around 5 to 6 days mostly every week. So if there's a game at the Chinnaswamy, I would probably take a 8 or 9 a.m. flight, because you want always an option after to fly in as well in case there is a catastrophe. So 8 or 9 a.m. flight, get into Bangalore, take the long drive to the hotel, quickly give my clothes for ironing. If I've slept well, quickly go get in a quick workout. We get to the ground at about 4:30, because we do a 90-minute show, which starts at about, say, 6-ish. There are pre-records. So get into the ground about an hour and a half before the show starts. Finish at the ground about an hour and a half after the game is over. So we get back to the hotel usually by 12:30, 1 at times. Quickly get everything. I keep everything packed in case I miss the alarm in the morning. Take an 8:30, 9 o'clock flight back, which means you leave for the airport at 6 o'clock. So on an average, you sleep for 4 to 5 hours a night when you're traveling during the IPL. 5-hour night is a good night. So take the flight back. I live very close to my studio. If I'm in the studio, come home, have lunch, back to work.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of felt the brunt of it as well. Obviously, nowhere as close as you broadcasters, but because we did a lot of traveling ourselves in cricket.com. At one point in time, we were thinking, shit, will we sustain the whole 74-day shebang? But we went through it because we're cricket lovers. And the only fear was the crazy summer of India and then going and staying in cold-ass hotel rooms. It really plays with your body. Have you ever suffered like a sickness mid-tournament, dare I say?
Yeah, this time I fell sick during the World Cup. I've actually had 2 bouts of COVID during the IPL. If anyone picks up a bug, you keep in mind that when we do studio stuff, it's almost all, it's either there, you're traveling, you're not sleeping well. Your immunity is always at its lowest when you're not sleeping well. People usually fall sick at least once during a long tournament. And you also then try and push till you can't turn up. I mean, there have been times the India-Pakistan match, the India-Pakistan World Cup game in New York. I did that with 101 fever. I was operating on heavy doses of paracetamol.
Kudos,
that was also out of my choice. I don't want to miss that match. I could have,
No,
but then.
No, I'm just saying because you need an invisible medal to, of course, call the action. Speaking of call the action, really quickly then, because you've really established yourself as a commentator, if not the best Hindi commentator. I think I'd vouch for that. And you have so many other greats doing it. You talk about Vivek Razdan, Akash Chopra, Sharipa has been brilliant. Do you see yourself as the number one right now? And I know you'll say that with a pinch of modesty saying no, but because of the appreciation you've got, especially in the last 4, 5, 6 years, in this Hindi space, your trajectory has just gone skyrocketing, and touch wood for that.
I just enjoy what I do. I haven't. I'll be very honest. I've stopped taking feedback on social media. It's not. I'm not being disrespectful towards anyone. I just feel when you pay too much attention while you do commentary to what people are liking and what people are not liking, then the next time you go for a stint, you're thinking. You can try as hard as you want. When someone gets out, when you're praising them, people think that all those wickets belong to me or any commentator. When someone gets out, humpanauti ban jate hain. Arey tum bakwas kar rahe ho, this and that. So I just found out that there is a very neutral zone, which is I have to do justice to the game to the best of my ability. I walk into the comm box, I do it. I sometimes don't check Twitter for up to 10 days, 12 days. Suddenly I'll feel like I need to tweet about something. I'll go and tweet and then I'm off. Same with Instagram. The World Cup, I think it was just a great appreciation of a great moment that Surya Kumar Yadav and Hardik Pandya combined to produce. I happened to be there. The validation for me was that just simple cricket and contextual cricket with excitement, with modulation, it works. You don't need to try too hard. I was very lucky to be present in that moment. I don't think there needs to be a podium or ranking for who does what. Every commentator has got something to learn from, and deep within every commentator knows what possibly is avoidable. Everyone's got strengths. I'm sure everyone's got weaknesses that we work on ourselves, and I don't think it's a competition.
It's an important point you mentioned there, because every commentator brings different things to the table. I was just wondering, now that you call the action with Ambati there and Sharipa was back home, if Sharipa was next to you, would that long off still happen? Because would you have been the caller then? Or would you have, of course, respected him subconsciously and be like, let him call it, he's the more experienced one?
Calling is my job. I am the caller. I call the action. That's how it's divided. I am the caller. And sometimes when you're in the middle of a sentence, Sharipa is a great storyteller. Sometimes his stories can overrun. I know people talk a lot about it. He's a great storyteller. He's got his own audience. He keeps us all entertained. But calling is my job. And especially in big moments, he has always been respectful to let me call the big moments. So even if I was there, and he was there, he was on commentary in Mumbai. He was on commentary in that over. And after I put down, you hear it's his voice. So calling is my job. Expertise and expert opinion, that's the color's job. And on most occasions, unless someone is stuck in the middle of a story, sometimes it happens, the caller always gets to do his job.
Okay, final couple for me then. There is, of course, a preconceived notion for people like me, other budding sports anchors, commentators, that right now you either have to be really good in terms of dual languages, Hindi in English or English in Kannada, so you can just pander to a bigger audience. And then there's a fear as well where, dare I say, the pretty girls get the benefit of the nod nowadays, even in sport, compared to someone who maybe knows the technicalities more. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you think that is a myth which needs to be busted? And what is the roadmap for people to now take over the mic from you going forward?
It's a myth. Let me not get there. First things first, it's a visual platform, and the demands are changing. It's not that cricket's an expensive sport to broadcast it, right? Whoever is broadcasting, irrespective of the network, they're paying a massive amount to showcase a game. It runs into crores, and you've got to earn that amount back. In our country, the subscription rates are probably the lowest across the other countries, or at least the Sinha countries, where the rights are equally expensive. So our subscriptions are minimal. I mean, in England, if you want a season full of football, what is it? I think it's close to £80. Right here at 2,200, you get a bouquet of 600, 700 channels. So you're not paying much for sport. So you have to recover a lot of money through advertisements. So there is a lot more research into what your audience is, how varied your audience is, what's the range of your audience, and you try and make it inclusive for almost everyone. There has to be something for everyone. Cricket does not belong to the purists. Cricket belongs to everyone. And in a tournament like the IPL, a tournament like the World Cup, everyone should feel that a network is looking after. It's not always about technicalities. Remember, it's not always just about the game. Sometimes the show, an IPL also, if you're starting the coverage 90 minutes before, for the first 30 minutes, you probably want a family to be entertained. So there is a lot that goes in. You've got to be very strong in one language. If you can offer more to the network, why not? If he can hire you and I can use you for English, I can use you for Hindi, and I can use you for a regional language, you're obviously going to hold the edge over someone who just broadcasts in one language. So I usually say it's 3 parameters. One is knowing the broadcast medium. First is obviously knowing the content, knowing your sport. Second is knowing the broadcast medium. Third is knowing the language you broadcast in. If you're very strong in 2 out of the 3, you're a very good contender. But you need to come in with experience. Maybe channels don't now have that much time to invest in youngsters. So no job is too small, whether it's a channel, whether it's you're doing video, right? So you're picking up experience. So just keep working, just wherever, radio, print, television, internet, just get experience.
Yeah, they say the world's your oyster, so just dip your hands in many buckets as possible and see where it takes you. I think that's the key, and good points that you mentioned there. It's real food for thought. You mentioned the word purist there. Let me just end this interview by asking, I'm guessing the test match lover that you are more than all the other 3 formats, the other 2 formats?
Of course.
For sure, right? So your ultimate test 11, Jatin Sapru, all time, you can be, you can have your favorites in there. You don't have to go by the numbers. Just you love batting and bowling and playing here.
How does one do this? Let me write it down so I get the 11. Oh God, and it's got to be what? It's a world 11?
Yeah, world 11, preferably batting order. You can have as many as you want from one country, no holds barred.
I don't know how to put the... Oh God, okay.
So many of them are your friends as well. I'm guessing like Big Matty Hayden might come up to your list.
That's what I'm thinking. I was just thinking Virender Sehwag or Matthew Hayden. And I've just written Sehwag/Hayden, with opening with the great Mr. Gavaskar. At number 3, I've got to go in with Rahul Dravid. At number 4, I've got to go in with Sachin Tendulkar. Oh, where do I fit in Virat? This is going to get me into a lot of trouble. I don't know, man. It's going to be a very India heavy. I couldn't work on this. I saw you sent me this.
That's okay. I just wanted to put you in the spot because you put so many cricketers in the spot. It's only fair, right?
Yeah, it's only fair. I don't know who all I've missed. I don't know. Tell me how this sounds.
Okay. What?
I can have a 12th man, right?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Mr. Gavaskar, opening with Virender Sehwag or Matthew Hayden, whoever's available. Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli's got a bat out of position, DVS Lakshman, Adam Gilchrist, Kapil Dev, Harbhajan Singh, Anil Kumble / Shane Warne, and I'm going to go in with Jasprit Bumrah with Jimmy Anderson as the other option. You've got to go in with him, man.
I love that. Absolutely love that because you were literally thinking so hard, not just with the openers, but of course your choices down the line. Great.
Now you've got Mutaiya Muralidharan, you've got Shane Warne, you've got arguably one of India's greatest match winners, Anil Kumble. You can do a period, era by era, and I've always felt this. That would be, I think, the best, most justice you can do to it. But yeah, this is the fun exercise. Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Who's your captain of this side? Good old Kapil Dev?
Good old Kapil Dev.
Thank you so much for your time, Jatin. Really means a lot to us. Have you ever kind of, I don't know, checked cricket.com out ever? I know you've stumbled upon us kind of meandering into your DMs and all of that, but generally, a word on us if you can.
This is the most special cricket URL, isn't it? Cricket.com should be should be the first on the search list, but it's always great to see a bunch of passionate guys finding a way to stay close to the game, to be fair, to be diligent in putting out things that really matter, not meandering to just what's the trend on social media. And it's always good to see youngsters trying to find their way into the game in a very confident manner. And I see you guys having done it. Wishing you all the very best, especially for your video spectrums and fields. Keep it up, man.